Hey, what's up, TikTok, Book Talk, Instagram, Booze, and Bays? I am back with another book review. I want to increase the rate at which I'm dropping these book reviews because I got a lot I want to review. It's already March, and I'm still doing, really, I'm just now. Nope, this is 2026 also, darn it. Okay, so I want to do my top 10 of 2025 as we approach the end of the first quarter. I'm going to get there or be square. But no, seriously, I'm going to get on it. So I'm going to speed up the rate at which I am dropping book reviews. Most of them will primarily be from my top 10 list of 2025. But I've been reading so many great books in 2026. Look, I'm already feeling like my top 10 is darn near complete for the year, and we ain't even at the halfway mark. So I'm going to have to be more mindful of what I'm labeling as a top 10 book because they cranking them out this year. I'm here to tell y'all. With that being said, what am I about to review right now, you ask? Medusa, Ayana Gray. Listen, let's just, before we get into the content of the book, let's start with the cover. I mean, come on. Could this be more attractive? I love this green, this gold, these speckles. Then once you take the dust cover off, absolutely beautiful. More gold speckles, the maiden, the mistress, the monster, the myth. And these gold speckles may or may not represent blood. That's up to interpretation. You'll have to see that when you read the book. And if you've already read the book, do you believe that the gold speckles represent blood? All right, so with that, per usual, I have notes, so I'm going to focus on that because y'all know I can get to rambling, and I want to be efficient here. So first things first, I want to say I love that this book starts with Medusa as a teenager. She's 17 years old, and she actually goes by Medi, and I think that's just a cute nickname, and it brings more attention to the fact that she is a child at 17 years old, because as many times as the story of Medusa has been told in many different versions, adaptations, interpretations, or what have you, that I have had exposure to, none of them have started in her childhood. I've always just known Medusa the monster, and so I really appreciated this sort of starting from a younger age approach that Ayana takes in writing this book and her interpretation of the story of Medusa. And even though this story is centuries years old, this feels fresh, new, vibrant, untapped approach to the story. And so for that, I'm also really grateful, and it was super engaging. For starters, we get to learn about not only just Medusa, the young person, but also Medusa in the midst of her family and the family dynamics. And so there was a lot of information there. I feel like, having read this, I have such a better understanding of Medusa and the older version and sort of the later years experience that I've heard so much about. So much more of it makes sense now, having gotten this version of an introduction to her life and her existence. So thank you, Ayana, for that. I feel like I've grown in my understanding of Medusa, the person. So Medusa lives with her mom and dad and two sisters. They have what they call a bunch of slaves working for them in their castle. They are part of a previous ruling monarchy, and so they are no longer in charge, but they have at least been afforded a level of financial security and comfort and what have you, even though they're not part of the ruling monarchy or class anymore. So that's also interesting to think about, how the power has shifted from different communities and people over the years or what have you. Okay, so I'm trying not to give away any spoilers here, so I'll mostly be giving you things to think about if you have not read the book. And then I'd love in the comments if you would share your interpretation and thoughts of things that I mentioned if you have read the book, and even things I didn't mention. What did I miss? What could I pay a little bit more attention to? So first and foremost, the way that Medusa Medi becomes Medusa as we know her with the snakes is absolutely horrible, because she's a victim in that moment, and it still has a spell cast on her that results in her locks becoming snakes. Okay, so I just want to start there. Medusa has been victimized and is a survivor, and is then the one who receives punishment, not the aggressor in the situation. So Medusa's family dynamics are interesting in that her dad is abusive towards anyone who doesn't do exactly what he says when he says, and all the things. Her mother survives this by basically being a functioning alcoholic. Medusa is mostly loved on by her sisters, and one of the ways that they really express that love and they engage in fellowship is doing her hair. So her sisters maintain her locks. Medusa / Medi is also the only one in the household that is mortal, so she will die, whereas her parents and her older sisters are immortal. The story doesn't really go into how that came to be, and I think we're just going to land on it's a DNA roll of the dice. And somebody's carrying genes and recessive genes and dominant genes or what have you, and that's her lot in life, that she is mortal and the rest of her family is immortal. One of the things that stands out to me about this book that resonates with me personally, and we still see this playing out in this day and age, is that her parents seem to have taken this approach of, I will not inform my kids of things to preserve their innocence. However, I'm also opening the door for ignorance, right, and naivete, and for them to be easily manipulated. These young women were being presented to society as being eligible and ready for marriage without even having had conversations, for example, about sex, the birds and the bees. Like, why would you be sending your child out to be presented to be wed, and you've not even talked to them about basic biology? And so I don't like that, and I think that I experienced that. My parents were my mother was very much of we don't talk about Bruno. Like, we don't talk about those things, and that is harmful. I think we need to be educating our kids about the realities of life and how to actually protect themselves, and not this false sense of protection that is actually just veiled ignorance. It is not blissful. And so, for example, a lot of people are like, oh, you don't want to talk about sex because that's going to make teenagers go out and have sex, or you don't want to talk about safe sex and birth control, that's encouraging them to have sex. Let me tell you something. Ain't too many teenagers need to be encouraged to have sex. They've been having it since the beginning of time. They're going to keep having it. The best thing, in my opinion, that we can be doing as parents, as members of the village, as adults, or aunties, coaches, whatever capacity that makes sense, the best thing we can be doing is teaching them how to be safe about it. They do not need encouragement. You are not encouraging them by helping them to think things through and be safe about it. So keep that in mind as you're reading the book. And if you've read it, again, let me know what your thoughts are around that. Also, Medusa eventually goes out into a different land, a different space, and has these experiences. She's a part of a training program. Again, I'm not going to go into too many details that's not ruining it. She didn't know anything about anything really outside of the castle in which she grew up in. So she gets to this new community, this new world, basically, and gets all kinds of tricked, manipulated, and lost in a sense. And that's not completely on her because she was denied access to real, honest, and true information. And so that is really awful. Also, this book brought up for me this reminder that as a woman, I want to make sure that I'm surrounded by girls, and that I'm always being a girls, which by that, what I mean is I'm woman forward, I'm woman first. So I'm looking out for my girls and vice versa. These are the ways by which, that's one of the most powerful ways by which we protect ourselves from the patriarchy, right? And all the trauma and drama that can come from that. And so we want to surround ourselves with women who really have our back and or our sister's keeper. So I think that that is really important. Thinking about Athena, who is the one who cast the spell on Medusa, she's very egotistical and petty in ways that I never heard that spelled out in different adaptations and interpretations of Medusa. So that was interesting, which then led me to think about when people say, oh, it's lonely at the top, is it? Or is there some intentional exclusion taking place? So that is absolutely something that we need to think about. What else do I have on here? Oh, always, of course, believe survivors and hold perpetrators accountable, like socioeconomic status, geography, timelines. Like none of that stuff should really impact whether or not we are believing survivors when they say they have been victimized. So we want to make sure we are being mindful of that. But yeah, so this book, interestingly enough, in a lot of different ways, it parallels the U.S. and the entire world today, which I did not go into it expecting that. And it also just really helped me better understand how Medusa became who she was, what she experienced, and how there's often so much blame to go around in different ways that lead up to different outcomes. And so we want to be mindful of the role that we are playing, but we also want to be holding others accountable as well to things that are taking place. And so with that, again, I just want to say for this to be a retelling of a very famous, very familiar Greek mythological story, it still felt very new and fresh. And so I'm grateful for that. So yeah, a lot of good things were in this book. I really appreciate the writing style. The pacing was phenomenal. I was engaged from beginning to end. I ran through this book. I don't even know that it took me 2 days to get through this one. This was really good. So yeah, shout out to Ayana Gray. This has been very successful for what I'm seeing. That is my review of I, Medusa. I think it is a wonderful book. I mean, this is an instant literary classic, and I love that for Ayana. And I encourage you, if you haven't read this, to read it. Love to hear some of your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed it, what you didn't like about it, what could have been different. If there are questions that have come up that you're off to research or whatever the case may be, stay safe out there, stay informed, and I will catch you all later. Take care.